She thought she was slick sneaking over at night to charge her Tesla using my garage outlet. No permission, no apology, just entitlement. I caught her on camera multiple times, warned her, even reported her to the HOA. Nothing worked because she was the HOA, so I installed a special surprise. A legal, controlled power surge unit. Next time she plugged in, boom, her Tesla's battery fried on the spot. She called the cops only to find the chief watching the footage on my laptop. Then she tried to find me at an HOA meeting, but left with her position revoked. A lawsuit, notice, and a $4,500 repair bill. Don't steal from your neighbors, especially when they have receipts, cameras, and a little bit of technical know-how. Asterisk, I moved into the neighborhood 3 months ago, ready for quiet mornings, peaceful walks, and a chance to finally enjoy my new garage workshop. But what I didn't know was that I had a neighbor one they all called Karen, who believed the HOA gave her the power of a queen and the neighborhood was her kingdom. From the moment I unpacked my boxers, she was watching. First it was a snide comment about the color of my trash bins. Then she left a warning letter from the HOA about leaving my hose coiled improperly. But things escalated when she discovered that my garage had a high-voltage outlet, installed by the previous owner intended for a home workshop. One evening, I came home and noticed my garage door ajar, and to my surprise, a long extension cable snaked from the outlet and across the yard to Karen's driveway. Her shiny white Tesla sat humming softly as it charged. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. I unplugged the cord, coiled it neatly, and left a polite note at her door explaining the situation. The next morning, I found the cord back plugged in again with a snarky note attached: community power, community care, don't be selfish, HOA board member. I was dumbfounded. I didn't even know she was on the board. I called the HOA and asked if there was some rule or agreement that allowed her to use my electricity. They said absolutely not and offered to send her a warning. That same day, she stormed to my house and accused me of reporting her like a child, then warned me that we do things differently around here. I installed a camera over my garage, and every night for the next week, Karen sneaked in and plugged her Tesla in again. One morning, I reviewed the footage and saw her literally waiting for my car to leave before she'd waltz over with her cord. I even confronted her on camera, but she denied it to my face, claiming it's just a shared amenity. Your garage is visible from the street, so it's not truly private. I kid you not. The HOA refused to act further, citing civil dispute. So I decided to get creative. I installed a decoy smart outlet with surge protection and remote control cutoff. I had a feeling Karen wouldn't stop unless something stopped her, and I was right. Late Friday night, her cord was back, and her Tesla blinked alive again. But this time, my system logged everything and flipped the surprise I had planned. I didn't want to cause damage, but I wanted to teach her a lesson. So I connected a programmable power controller that would spike the amperage not dangerously, but enough to cause her onboard charger to enter panic mode and shut down. Only I underestimated the sensitivity of that Tesla. Within minutes, her car let out a faint pop, dashboard lights flickered, and the front screen went black. She came rushing out of her house in a robe, panicking. I stood outside, pretending to water my lawn, and asked, "Everything all right, Karen?" She shot me a glare like I had personally murdered her car. "You sabotaged it," she screamed. "You rigged your garage outlet." I replied coolly. "My garage, my outlet. I didn't invite your car to plug into it." She called the cops. Seriously. When they showed up, I showed them the footage, the HOA notices I'd sent, the correspondence with the HOA, and even the time-stamped electrical logs. Karen, on the other hand, had no permission, no written agreements, and a car that now wouldn't even turn on. The cops sided with me, warning her that using someone's property without consent having power could be considered theft. But Karen wasn't done. Oh no. The next day she called an emergency HOA board meeting and tried to fine me $1,000 for willful neighborhood sabotage. That was the last straw. By the time that emergency HOA meeting was scheduled, word had already spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Everyone had an opinion. Some were furious that Karen had been secretly stealing electricity for months, while others were just entertained by the drama. I walked into the HOA meeting hall wearing a polo and jeans, calm and prepared. Karen sat at the front table with a thick folder labeled evidence. She tried to look dignified, but her expression flickered every time someone in the crowd snickered. The president of the HOA, an older gentleman named Rick, opened the floor and invited her to explain. Karen launched into a dramatic speech. "This resident," she pointed at me like I was a criminal on trial, "has endangered my vehicle, interfered with my charging routine, and acted with malicious intent against a board member. I am seeking immediate sanctions." I politely waited my turn, then laid it all out. Security footage, power logs, letters, even emails from the HOA's own support line acknowledging my complaints. Then I delivered the final blow. I had brought an electrician's signed statement confirming that the surge was within safe legal limits and that any failure of her Tesla was due to misuse or sensitive hardware, not sabotage. The room was dead silent. Karen turned red, then white, then red again. Rick leaned forward and asked, "Karen, Were you aware you had no right to plug into your neighbor's garage outlet? She started stammering. Well, it was accessible, and he never locked the door. Another board member interrupted. That's not how property works. It was almost pitiful to watch her unravel. The HOA dropped her request to fine me. Instead, they issued her a violation notice for unauthorized use of another residence resources and barred her from holding a board position for 12 months. She stormed out before the meeting ended, but I wasn't done. I'd had enough of her meddling. Using the camera footage and the logs of every instance she'd charged her Tesla, I filed a small claims case for electricity theft and trespassing. The total came to just over $800. She laughed when she got served, laughed 2 weeks later. We were in court. She arrived in a borrowed car, her Tesla still apparently awaiting repair. She tried to claim I had invited her to use the outlet in a friendly, neighborly spirit, but under questioning, she couldn't produce a single shred of proof. The judge awarded me the full amount, plus court fees. That night, I installed a locking metal cover on the outlet and reinforced my garage door with a keypad lock. Karen didn't dare come near again. She avoided eye contact for weeks, and her yard, once immaculate, began to wilt. But the real cherry on top came from Tesla itself. Apparently, the incident had triggered a warranty flag, and because the charging surge came from an unauthorized non-residential setup, they refused to cover the repair. Her bill nearly $4,500. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. She'd stolen less than $100 worth of power and ended up with thousands in damage, a court judgment, and neighborhood humiliation. The HOA, now under increased scrutiny, started revising several of its policies largely to prevent further abuses like Karen's. As for me, I finally got back to working on my garage workshop in peace. No cords, no theft. Just peace and tools. Occasionally, neighbors drop by and chuckle at the tale. Some even ask if it's true. I just smile, point to the camera above the garage and say, "Want to see the footage?"